So here we are. We just did our healing minute. We've got all sorts of bells and whistles going on in the background. You know, my assistant Carolyn makes sure that I turn all the sound down on my little machines, but she forgot this morning to turn down her sound on her little machine. So, all right. So, first of all, I'd like to say hello and welcome to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing as always to my right side. Excuse me. And then I would also like to say hello to Carolyn, who is on the far left. Say good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, everyone.
And before we begin, we'd like to send our love and healing prayers to Peggy. Peggy was going to try and make it today, but unfortunately her little puppy is sick and she should be at the vet. Maybe she's already been to the vet, but she should be at the vet as we speak. So we're sending healing to Lily. All right. So our subject today is when does the spirit, excuse me, enter the body? Is it at conception? Is it preconception? Is it when the baby's born? And there are lots and lots of people who have a lot of thoughts and feelings on it. Having said that, we've got so many questions today, but we don't have one question about the subject. So I'm going to briefly talk about the subject and then we're going to go to some questions. But if any of you are live and listening and you have any questions about our chosen subject this morning, please just feel free to send them in. All right. So when does the soul enter the physical body? And we did talk about this actually last week, and I did talk to you about the fact that I'm able to see those souls who are about to enter this, let's say our earth world. They are there and they are hovering and they are waiting. Now the simple answer to when does the soul enter the physical body, the very simple answer is at that moment of conception, if not even prior to, waiting, hanging in there and becoming a part of the energy that creates these beautiful, beautiful children, these babies who are in the womb. Whether or not, excuse me, we then miscarry is the decision of the soul. And it sounds weird, yes, but some souls choose to come to this earth and to have this earth experience simply for the experience of being inside of the womb, of being connected in that way to another soul, namely the mother who is carrying that child. They come for that moment, which might be 5 minutes, or it might be 5 months, it might be even 9 months, but they come for that moment of experiencing what it is like in the womb, of experiencing what happens to the soul of the mother and the energy of the soul, the mother's soul, as the child is growing and becoming more and more. So a lot of souls don't necessarily come to or come into the womb, let's say. A lot of souls don't come into the womb wanting that full lifespan of, let's say, I think in the Bible it says 70 years and 10 or something, which makes us 70. So a lot of souls choose not to have that full length earth experience. They only want that momentary experience of the womb. But then of course there are souls who want a little more than that, and then there are souls who, like my soul, wants to have this full-blown earth experience, like my soul, like your soul, because if you're listening that means you're still with us on this earth plane. Well, maybe not necessarily. I really messed up there, didn't I? But you know what I'm saying. So some souls choose to come only for that brief moment of time and to have the experience in the womb, but not to have the experience continue after birth. And this is why we have things like miscarriages and aborted fetuses and so on and so forth. But you know, still, once that soul enters and becomes a part of that humanity, that human being, no matter how tiny that human being is, that soul then is part of this earth cluster. It is part of our cluster of souls, the earth cluster of souls, and therefore continues life after death. So lots of people say, you know, look, I aborted it, and I'm using the word abort because it's a medical term, does not necessarily mean you went and had an abortion, but the baby aborts from the womb. So some people abort at 3 months, some people abort at 9 months. We just had a lovely request for healing from a lady who just her baby went to full term, and then just prior to her giving birth, they realized that the baby had died within the mother's womb. And so she'd gone to full term, she'd gone to 9 months and then lost the baby. And we often wonder, those of us who have had those kinds of miscarriages, and some of us obviously not to full term, we wonder, well, are they still out there? Are they still a part of us? Are they still a part of our lives? And the answer is a resounding yes, they are out there. Yes, they are still a part of our lives, and they're still connected to us because, you know, our souls have connected. That soul of the mother carrying that child, the soul of the child, the two souls are connected and will remain forever then connected. All right, so we are.
Well, Dean had a question, right?
Did I just answer Dean's question?
You did. Well, except for Dean's a dad, and so he says, "Is my miscarried baby connected to me in any way anymore?"
Yes, because this miscarried child is part of your family and a part of the, you know, connecting with, not only with the soul of the mother, but connecting with the souls of the children, of his brothers, sisters, parents, even uncles and aunts. Depending on how much that soul chooses to become involved, because it might only be a mild involvement, or it might be a full-blown involvement. Like I think I told a story once on this program where that we had Charlie, and everybody in the family considered Charlie to be the poltergeist. Well, Charlie wasn't the poltergeist. Charlie was the baby that died, the twin, in fact, of a lady who came to see me for a consultation sort of 50 years or 50 some years later, and her teenage daughters knew Charlie very well. His name actually wasn't Charlie, but they called him Charlie. They nicknamed him Charlie the Poltergeist. And Charlie the Poltergeist was very, very, very involved in the family, and especially with the teenage girls. So it depends, Dean, on you know, how involved this child wants to be, this soul wants to be with your family. But yes, once that there is that connection, once there is that tie, it can't leave. You can't sever it. It's you know, and of course, when it's your time to go, you're able to, for however brief a visit, you're able to meet and to see this child of yours who did not survive the earth plane, but certainly did survive. Let's see, do we have any other questions? Yes. Okay, let's go.
Nate asks, is it true that some souls do not spark into a soul, and when death comes to them, they dissipate?
No. Okay, a soul is born, created from, and infused with a particular and very powerful energy. And as we've been talking of soul signs, which, by the way, goes to the printers today.
Yes, this afternoon.
Oh, goes to the printers this afternoon. So that's only another week, and then you'll be able to get it. But this is why we've been talking about soul signs and trying to explain the existence and the formation and the creation of souls and how they are created and what happens to them. So who's this? Nate?
Nate.
Nate. So Nate, I think I'm not quite sure, you know, what you've been told or who's been saying this to you. Energy can enter into, or any of us, all of us, and then can dissipate if we don't nurture it and encourage it. But you know, once a soul is born, created, it doesn't dissipate unless it chooses to, unless it chooses not to feed itself, unless it chooses not to explore. So I suppose in a way, if it chooses not to continue, then eventually it will dissipate, I suppose.
Dean has another question.
Okay.
He says, is this miscarried child the age that he would be now, or does that child get to choose its own age?
Okay, well, when children are, when children go to the spirit world, however young they are, and I do not know why this is. Remember, I'm not all knowing and all seeing. People might think I am, but I'm really not. I don't know the answers to all of the questions. And I've asked this question of Grey Eagle before now, and so far I have not really had an answer that I could share with anyone. Some children, I don't know why, some children choose to remain at a certain age and others choose to grow. Very often, this is my observation. It is not necessarily the whole facts of the case, but my observation is that when that child who is lost has siblings still remaining on this earth plane, they will often grow, they will often continue to grow and continue to learn because they're growing alongside their siblings. So sometimes they choose to grow for that reason. Sometimes they, you know, this is why sometimes, as in the case of Charlie the poltergeist, you know, I saw this, that he died as a baby, just out of the womb, and died coming out of the womb. But when I saw him, he was in his 50s, exactly like his sister, who was sitting in front of me for we're having a consultation, who was also in her 50s, the same age. So I saw him as I'm seeing her at the same age. But there have been times when I've seen a child who, let's say, passed at 6 years old, and I might see her at 10, but it's been 20 years since she passed, but I see her perhaps at around age 10. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know why that is. So I suppose souls can, in certain circumstances anyway, choose for themselves.
Okay. Next question right there.
Next question.
Gabriella asks.
Oh my goodness, they're coming thick and fast. Hello, Gabriella. And so hello to Nate too. I'm sorry, Nate, I forgot to say hello. Yeah.
When the soul decides to live a life on Earth, can they change their opinion in the process?
No. I'm asking Grey Eagle. Ooh, wait a minute. Let me ask Grey Eagle this one. And I'm right. No, they because here is what happens. Before we come to this earth, we are educated in all of the stuff that you know, could or could not happen, and does and does not happen. We don't come here blindly. We don't sort of just dive in with both feet and hope it's going to work out. We come here with a goal in mind, and the goal that we have in mind is the one of choosing to learn and to grow and to become more and more of. And very often, you know, life is not great, but and there are those people who try to take their own lives, as we know. If it is your time to go, you will go. But if it is not your time to go, it doesn't matter how many times you try to take your own life, it won't happen until God decides, until, you know, and I actually feel very strongly about this from the many experiences that I've had over the hundreds and hundreds of years that I've been doing this. I feel very strongly that our moment of conception, our moment of birth, and our moment of death or passing are all factors that have already been decided. And if my experience with other people hasn't told me that, I can tell you the experience with my own daughter has told me that, because not only was I able to give the date and what have you of the sex of my grandson to my own daughter, I was also able to give the time. And I can remember my daughter getting very frustrated with me. Of course, she was in labor and she couldn't get the baby out, and she ended up having to have an emergency C-section. And she looked at me at one point, sort of daggers in her eyes. You know how when you're pregnant, that it's not easy, right? So I forgive her that. She said, okay, then all right, it's clever clock, she says, what time will he be born? And so I looked at Grey Eagle and he showed me the clock, and I was able to give her the exact time. So I gave her the time, and then she looked at me and she said, morning or afternoon, AM or PM? And I said AM. And sure enough, when she had this baby, there was this huge clock facing her, over the door facing her, massive clock. She couldn't miss it. And of course she was awake for the C-section. And as my darling boy took his first breath, she couldn't help herself. She looked at the clock and bingo, there it was, the exact time, to the second, I might add, that he was born. So I do know that there is, let's say, this book, or a kind of a book that is written, and in this book is the time of birth, the sex of the child. In this book are many things that are going to happen, many experiences that are inevitable. What is not inevitable is the way we deal with those things, our attitude towards those things. But very many things in our lives are inevitable and we can't escape them, but we can deal with them positively or negatively depending on our attitude. And also in this book is written, I firmly believe, the time of our passing, the time, the day, the date, just as it is the time of our birth. Next question. Did I have to probably stopped everybody in the tracks there? Have I?
We're finished chit-chatting here. Real quick, Jillian joined us. She's a little south of us, and she had a neck procedure, so she could be better, but if she could use some of your healing, if you wouldn't mind.
Jillian, will certainly put you on in our healing book. Now, anybody out there listening, please, if you want to join our group, just to send healing and join with us on our group. It's a worldwide group. We encourage everybody to join. Just send us an email. We'll put your name on as one of our people who are helping us to send healing to all of the people who are on in our healing book. And Jillian, you'll be in our healing book. Now, just because you're not feeling very well doesn't mean that you can't send healing to others. So if you'd like to participate as a healer and join with us at 11 o'clock, whatever time it is there for you, in whatever country you're in, 11 o'clock in the morning, spend 1 minute, just 1 minute, sending out your healing prayers and ask for healing to be sent to all of those in our healing book. We are very, very grateful for the energy and just that 1 moment of time every day that you could give to us. Yes.
A shout out. We've got Sara and Christine both joined us.
Hello, Sara, and hello, Christine. Did you only just join us? Because I think you, I'm just they missed something. I'm just kidding.
We have a new person, Sunny, and they ask, does a spirit have a choice when they dive into a body, or is it by forceful, subconscious, non-choice?
No, I think didn't I just answer that? I think I said, Sunny, we don't know if you're a boy or a girl, darling, right. So let us know that. But hello and welcome. And no, there is no subconscious diving in, and no, no, let's take a leap of faith and dive in. No, this is something that is It's very, very controlled, and it's very, very thought out, because every soul who comes to this earth plane comes for a reason. And when God decides, or whoever it is, those wiser and more, you know, more informed beings who are helping us and helping our soul in its growth and learning, they're the ones who know best for us what it is that we need to do and what kind of life it is that we need to live in order to, for our soul to get the best learning experience. A little bit like right now, my daughter's trying to figure out where my grandson is going to school. Well, you don't just randomly throw the kid at any, maybe some people do, but I wouldn't. But in the spirit world, no, the soul is very important and very nurtured and very cared for, and is created from a pocket of energy. Each soul is created from a certain pocket of energy, which is very nurturing and very loving and very caring. And so, you know, so when it comes to that moment that the soul feels that it needs this earth experience, then it is very carefully nurtured and placed in the right environment. Now, some of you are thinking, well, how can that be? Because I've had a really rotten life, and look at me, and you know, and that surely when God put me here, he made a mistake. Couldn't he have found something better? But it's not about putting you in the nicest and the most wonderful and luxurious environment. It's about putting you into an environment for the growth of your soul, where your soul is going to have the opportunity to grow. And very often, and though we don't like this, we don't like the idea of this, very, very often our soul will grow through adversity. Our soul will grow through pain. Our soul will grow through struggle, much more than it ever will by sitting back, laying on a silk cushion and being fed grapes and whatever else. So, you know, so we're put in an environment, whether it's a struggling environment or not, and think about those people who are born disabled, and believe it or not, who choose to be born this way, because in our soul state prior to our birth here, we totally understand what it is that we need to do in order for that growth to happen. And so, you know, this is the aim of the soul, is to learn and to grow. So I don't think there's anything accidental or haphazard about it, Sonny, but thank you. It was a great question.
Sonny is a man.
Sonny, thank you, sir. It was a great question.
Okay, we've got lovely Dean, who's translating for Simone. Simone's in another country, and she speaks Italian, I believe.
Hello, Simone, and thank you, Dean, for translating. Yes. Pretty good. We didn't know we had our own translator here. Well,
Simone's question is a big one. She wants to know how to communicate with loved ones in the spirit world, which I've asked Dean to try to let her know that you've done a couple of videos that might help her in the right direction.
Yes, I'm going to suggest that any of the Lisa Gibbons shows, and I mean, some of them are older, but they're always fun. And the reason I'm recommending the Lisa Gibbons show is because Lisa is probably the only one. Well, Larry King was pretty good too, actually. I shouldn't say the only one. But Lisa, she would literally say to me, after the first time I went on the Lisa show, there's a piece of red tape on the floor, stand here. And then there's another piece of red tape a bit further up. You can stand here or you can stand here. Well, that doesn't work for me, because any of you who've seen me on a TV talk show, you'll know I'm all over the place. I like to go into the audience. Well, once Lisa realized that, she invited me back again and again. And what she would say to me is, just go for it, Rosemary, wherever you want to go. And she would have certain guests that she was planning on me speaking to. But, you know, God has a greater plan, and Grey Eagle and I, we follow the plan, that plan, not necessarily Lisa's plan. But we, you know, she would just say to me, whatever you want to do, do it. And so we have great clips, and you can see literally how it works. And if you can remember that, of course, you know, the audience, I don't know who's in the audience. And in fact, when Lisa has special guests on, what they do is they put me in a back room and they put these big headphones on me, and it's been known that I've been blindfolded as well. What I'm expected to see in a dark room, I don't know. But just to make sure that it's not cheating, which I do understand, they put me in this room and then they bring me out in the audience. And when you see, well, also when you watch, not just on the Lisa show, but on other TV shows as well. And as you're talking, they show clips, you know, they show clips of a person in the background. I don't see those clips. They put them in afterwards, or they put them in before I come out, whichever way. So the audience knows, but I don't know. So if you want to know more about how to connect with the spirit world and what's going on with the spirit world, my advice to you is go to YouTube. And yes, of course, there are always negative things being said about me and everybody else. Too bad, sour grapes for that. I don't care what everybody else believes. I only care about what I believe, and that I'm doing, you know, the right thing for me. So that's what I'm going to suggest that you do. Go to YouTube. It's very easy. Or if you want to go to Facebook, you'll see on Facebook there are lots of links to YouTube. There's a link to this YouTube. This is going on, you know, live and then going on to YouTube. So you can always rewatch these shows at your leisure. And, you know, just go and take a look and see what you think. Let's have our next question.
We've got Sara asks, I wondered if my son's induction, the day of his due date, messed with his meant-to-be birthday. And this is this is lovely. This is Sara that came and visited you.
Hello, Sara. I have no idea what you said.
I wonder,
can you work that out for me?
She's wondering because the
baby was induced.
Right.
Gotcha.
So did that mess with his meant-to-be birthday?
Oh, you mean the birth date that the doctors give you? Right. Okay. My daughter was supposed to be born on the 10th. I was told the 10th, okay? And I was induced. Now, the weird thing is, and I think I've mentioned this before, I used to collect bus tickets with the number 7. Number 7, for whatever reason, since I've been a kid, number 7 has always been that number that's attracted me, and I've always considered it. Who knows why? Who knew why until my daughter was born, right? Years and years later, 24 years later to be precise. But who knew that, you know, the number 7 would be so significant. So she was induced and she was born, her natural birth date is the date that she pops out. Now my daughter's, well, wait a minute, my grandson's were supposed to be born on, I think, the 18th. So that's a week. And I kept saying to Samantha, you're going to have him on the 12th. This is like when she was 4 months pregnant. He's going to be, you know, born on the 12th. And she said, no, it's the 18th. It's the 18th. It's like, she knows me so well, but she still couldn't quite get it in her head when it was applying to her. And, you know, yes, she was told the 18th, but the spirit world knew it to be the 12th. And I knew in her 4th month that it was the 12th. Don't ask me. Oh, well, you can ask me how. Gregor told me. See, I'm not that clever. I have somebody whispering in my ear who tells me these things. But was it inevitable? It was. So our birth date is never accidental, and it's never, you should never listen to the doctors. That's only a guideline, because the doctors, as much as some doctors think they are, they're not God, you know, just so you just, you know, want to say that. So, you know, whatever date that baby is born is what the date that they are supposed to be born, and does not interfere with anything. It's perhaps, if anything, the doctors interfere with what is a natural progress and a natural process. Next question.
Jillian asks.
Hello, Jillian.
Is it possible for your soul's purpose to be to have the child you end up having, and that's it? Or does it have to be more than that?
What?
Is it possible for your soul's purpose to be to have the child you end up having, and that's it? Or does it have to be more than that?
Is your soul's purpose to simply have the child and then nothing else? Well, my natural response, I am having to control myself and remember that I do have Gregor here. So, and I'm not all knowing and all seeing. So I'm going to ask him is that maybe just the only reason that we're here on this earth?
Yes.
To have the baby?
Yes, that's.
But not to nurture the baby, not to help the baby grow, or?
No, I think more like, is that her soul's purpose to have a baby, if that is her only purpose?
It is part of the purpose. It is part of the purpose. The reason for a soul's existence on this earth is to learn and to grow, and part of that learning and growing existence is to experience, for some of us, those of us who are fortunate, to experience childbirth, to experience sometimes miscarriages, but it is only part. That's part of the learning process. And Grey Eagle is saying to me, there is so much more. Yes, I could say my sole purpose here would be to have my child, but then what about my grandchild? Because I'm very involved with my grandchild, and if anybody out there listening to me thinks I'm going to give up on trying to influence my grandchild, no, this is not me. So I'm going to always try to bring my influence and my thoughts to bear on my grandchild. And I'm laughing because last night I always have a little chat to my grandson before he goes to bed. So we're talking about, you know, how much he loves me, and he says he loves me all of this. I can't remember exactly what he says now, but it says plexus and into infinity and so on and so forth. So he'll tell me this. So then I say, I love you more. He says, I love you more. So then I say, but I love your mama because she's my baby. And he got very upset. He said, you love mama more than me? He's only 4, you know, only 4. So I said, well, I love mama as much as I love you, but I want you to love me more. It's like he started crying. So of course, I do love him more and more and more every day. And I mean, my soul is learning and joyful and growing with all of these fabulous experiences that I'm having through the birth of my own child. Next question.
All right. Eric asks, are we able to still taste when we pass as spirits to the other side?
That has nothing to do with the, well, it does actually have to do with the soul. So I'm going to answer it. Who's asking this? Eric. Hi, Eric. Yes. Now, I know that there are people out there who say, oh, you can't taste, you can't smell, there's no need for food, there's no need for this, that, and the other. But we do still retain, I know that they are, you know, our human abilities, but the soul is very much a part of that human existence, even when it leaves behind the physical body. So we do have this sense of taste, a sense of seeing, a sense of feeling and touching. It's like, can we touch once we're in the spirit world? Well, I can tell you now that Grey Eagle's hand is on my shoulder and I can feel it. Now to just squeeze me just to make sure that I am feeling it. So no, do we lose our senses? I think you're asking, and the answer is no, we do not.
I believe you answered this question, but I did want
Go
to
for it.
Carolyn from Maryland, no.
Hello, Carolyn from Maryland.
What happens to the souls of aborted babies, stillborn and those that died before?
Okay, all right. I think I answered that question pretty thoroughly. But Carolyn, if there is a specific reason for your question, as a mother, I can remember when I had my first miscarriage and I was taken into hospital and all that stuff. It was a bit of a panic and everything. And I can remember I was devastated and crying and all the rest of it. And then a bit later on, there were 2 doctors talking outside the curtains of my bed. And one said to the other, oh, the young woman in there is, has aborted. I was devastated. I was devastated because to me, an abortion is something that you choose to have, and I certainly was not choosing to have this experience. And then I learned that it's simply the term. But at that time, I was extremely emotional and going through a lot of pain. So for all of you out there who have experienced this, please know that not only do I sympathize, I empathize, because that pain you always remember it. It never goes away. And that child, that fetus, that little thing that was inside of you, it remains a part of you. And for all of these years later, for me, many, many, many years later, because we all know I'm an old woman, so many, many, many years later, it still remains with you. And the pain of losing that child, if I close my eyes, I can see it I can see the whole awful experience quite clearly. It's not that I hold on to it. It's not that I harbor it. It's not that I am suffering anymore from it, because I understand better now. It's just that it is one of those memories, and it's a memory that we retain, and it's a memory that the soul retains, part of the learning and the growing process. Next question.
Simone actually is asking, do you plan to return to Italy?
I do at some point, if we can find someone to sort of organize an event. Yes. I'm also, I don't think we have Mitchell on today. Mitchell came on a couple of weeks ago. Mitchell is a friend of mine in Australia, and he is a medium, well-known medium in Australia. And we're actually planning for me to go out to Australia. I know there's little Sara, I think, who's going to maybe be excited, isn't it? Sarah from Australia. Tracy. Yes. Oh, Tracy from Australia. I don't know why I got Sara in my head there. You know, I'm always open to going out and about, traveling and so on and so forth. I'm always open to doing that. So, you know, if you could find someone to sponsor that, find someone to organize it, yes, I'll be there in a heartbeat.
Christina wants you to know that your eyes are so full of light when you talk about your grandson. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, well, you know. And not just thank you for that, and not just my grandson, my daughter also. She's actually prone to saying, so what am I, chopped liver? I mean, what am I? What do you know, what? She pretends to be jealous, but she loves that I love him, and I love her too. And she's given me the greatest gift in giving me him. Are we going to talk about being mischievous, or mischievous?
Maggie's question. Maggie had a great question.
Yes.
If a spirit really mucked it up, would they be considered a fallen spirit and sent back to Earth? Or is there another plane world planet they would go? Do they have to do it over to get back into where they were? And would that cause resentment, translating it to their new human experience here? Hence all the nasty people around lately.
That's funny.
So she was talking about...
Right, we're talking about what?
Mischievous angels.
It's so funny because Carolyn and I had a conversation just prior to this, and she was running this question by me, and so she couldn't say mischievous. In my country, we say mischievous. In America, they say mischievous. And Carolyn said mischievous, because it's one of those words that she finds a little tongue-tying, because we all have those words. Every one of us have those words. Somebody's trying desperately to get hold of me.
Yeah, you scolded me about not turning my phone off.
Well, I thought I did, but I'm sorry.
I can just
guys.
put it in.
It is, no, turn it off. Sorry. It's a live show. What can I tell you? So I've got a little tweet going on here. Somebody's desperate to connect with me. So anyway, so they just have to wait. So yes, so we were having this conversation about the word mischievous, and all of those of you Americans, don't bother correcting me. The way to say mischievous, the American way, mischievous, the British way, and of course I'm sure every country in the world has their own word for it. But we were just laughing about that. So what was that question again? If a spirit mucks up,
would they be considered a fallen spirit?
Is this young lady British?
No,
use
Maggie's
the word
out in California.
Mucks up. Mucking up is a very British thing to say, I have to tell you. So, if they muck up, in other words, for those of you who need a translation, if they mess up, I don't think it's possible for us, for a soul to mess up. I think it's possible that we have these different experiences, and some of them are not so great and some of them are really great. I think the only way that we can muck up, so to speak, is to maybe to have not learned the lessons that we were supposed to have learned. And I'm sure that there are lots and lots of lessons that I have not learned. And I'm sure when it's my turn to go to the spirit world, somebody is going to be saying to me, well, here was a great opportunity for you to learn this and this, but you mucked up, you messed up. And so what we do is we have a choice. We can, have another experience, whether it's coming back to this earth plane and we choose, or whether you choose to have that experience in some other way, in some other, arena. The universe is huge, as we've discovered. It's a massive, massive place. And so we have lots of choices. We have lots of places that we can go to have these experiences. So mucking up is inevitable for all of us, just so as you know. We all do it, and we're all going to continue to do it, and I am going to be one of those who continues to do it more and more and more. But hopefully someone in the spirit world is going to help me, to guide me, and to put opportunities in my way to correct. Because if we don't get a lesson once, then we are given lots and lots of opportunities in order to learn at some point. I think I answered that question. I hope I answered it sort of correctly. Yes. Next question.
Okay.
Carolyn's
from Tracy.
Carolyn's totally phased. Hello, Tracy. I'm sorry I called you Sarah. I knew who you were, really. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to read two things at once. Okay, so what does it mean when you see people's faces, loved ones, one by one, their faces? You have huge love and every possible feeling for them. At the time, it feels like it lasts forever, but in reality, it is just seconds of seeing all their faces, face after face of everyone you know. You experience a feeling that is not bound by time and is like forever. Is this what happens when we die? And does this happen to everyone? Is there a certain number of times before we die that this can happen to us? And now the little pre-story to this is, she says this has happened to her.
Well, can I just answer that question first, and
Sure.
then you can give us the pre-story?
Yeah.
This is Tracy's question, right? Tracy, this is not as uncommon as you might think. Lots of people have the experience you've described or similar experiences, and it's usually in that moment when the soul perceives, or people in the spirit world perceive, people who love you and who care about you perceive danger. And when your soul perceives danger, let's say it becomes on a red alert, you become much more in tune, you become much more aware. Yes, this is what often happens in that moment of death, but it can happen prior to death if the soul, or if you personally, or some subconscious level, are intuitively know that you're in danger, not necessarily danger of dying, but in danger, whatever that danger may be. And what happens is those senses, your soul becomes on high alert. Your soul connects with the heartbeat of your soul connects with the heartbeat of you, your human physical heartbeat. You have this connection, and all things come together. It's like having an epiphany when let's say all of the chakras are aligned, all of your energy is aligned, and all of a sudden you become very, very still in that moment, and you're able to see and to be aware. And if those of you in the spirit world of your loved ones perceive this danger to you and you see them, it's because they are around you and they are there to help you, possibly to save you, possibly to, let's say, keep you sane and safe, but they're there to support you in this moment. that you're having. So it's not nearly as uncommon as you think, and it usually happens in moments of intense danger. So now I think you're going to tell me that she's explained when she's had these moments, and I'm pretty sure that there are moments of intense danger. So let's hear the rest of that story, can we?
She says, I have had this happen to me on 2 occasions. The first time when I could not breathe on board an aircraft when I was working for Air NZ as a flight attendant. And the second time when my girls and I were in a car accident and a semi-trailer hit us at full speed from behind on the M1 when we were stationary.
The M1 is she British, this girl? She's been to
No,
England?
no, this is Tracy.
This is Tracy.
Yeah,
but
from Australia.
what's she doing? First of all, I want to know what you're doing on the M1. Second of all, you just confirmed with that story exactly what I'm saying, and I'm sure if you think about it, darling, it makes sense to you, because in those moments of incredible danger, or it can also happen in moments of incredible joy, it can also happen in those incredible moments of awareness where all of your energies are aligned, everything is aligned, your chakras are aligned, your energy is aligned, and you are very, very much in tune with everything around you. I've said before to people, it's not a question of us calling up the spirit world and saying, you know, is there anybody there? They're all there, they're ready, they're waiting. And especially in moments of, you know, celebration or in moments of tragedy, they're all there. It's we who are blind, not they who are not there. Next question.
All right. Marissa asks, how are the hearing and seeing impaired able to connect with the spirit world?
I think we just talked about blindness, didn't we? That was a perfect tie-in there. Marissa? Marissa, hello, Marissa. All right. We know, you know, science tells us that when we lose one sense, often our other senses become more in tune. They become more powerful, they become sharper, they become more in tune. So when someone, for instance, loses their sight, their hearing becomes much more in tune, and often their taste buds, and in fact all of the senses. All right, so if you've lost 2 of your physical senses, if you are both deaf and blind, then you simply are able to see and to hear in a way that is far beyond the capability of us who are seeing and who can hear in a physical sense. Your capabilities become like my capabilities, because when I am connecting with the spirit world, I'm using not really my physical sight, and I'm not really using my physical hearing. I'm going way beyond what my physical hearing and sight is capable of, and I'm hearing in a way and seeing in a way that has to do with the soul and nothing to do with the physical. Now, when I'm looking for someone in the spirit world, if you're observing me, you might observe that I'm, let's say, staring, and people who know me well, they know instantly when I'm seeing someone in the spirit world, because they describe my eyes as it sounds very weird, and I do have odd eyes, I have to say, but they describe my eyes as seeming to go backwards in my head. Well, I know why that is, because I'm not looking forward. Even though I seem to be staring forward, I'm actually not looking forward. I'm looking back. I'm looking behind me. I'm looking around me. I'm looking in different spaces. So those who are blind, those who are deaf, have much more capability of hearing and seeing than the rest of us do. I hope that answers your question, Marissa. So, next question. Do we have any more questions? You know, we are running fast out of time, but we do have another few minutes, so let's keep going if we can.
We'll take one more question. Corinne asks, why do people use their free will to harm others in a dark way?
Well, Corinne, hello. Because that's what they choose to do. We all have choices. And some of us choose to go down a negative path, and some of us choose to go down a more positive and a happy path. People will say that a person who has that negativity is a person who's had, you know, bad things happen to them. I don't think that's true at all. I think people who do, you know, bad things or are mean to other people, they just simply choose to be that way. I've had lots of bad experience. I've been beaten up twice severely, and then on a regular basis, you know, regularly, often, by my father, and backhanded many times by my mother. So I could, boy, her backhands were pretty good, let me tell you. But I mean, do I choose to hold on to the anger and the bitterness and the frustration and the poor me, and do I choose to hold on to that rejection and make my life bitter and angry so that then I eventually turn that bitterness and anger onto other people? No, I choose to be a happy camper. I choose to learn. I choose, and I've said this for many years, and I've written about it for many years, you know, all of this business of nature versus nurture is ridiculous to me, because I and my siblings have many reasons to abuse our children if nature rules, if nurture rules over nature. This is the path that we would follow, but we don't, because we choose. And I use my parents as an example, a good example. They are a very good example to me of how not to be. That's my choice. I choose to use their example as to how not to be. And those people out there who don't choose that way, who choose to be, you know, bitter and angry and therefore become mean and spiteful and do mean things and harmful things, well, it's their choice, and it's their downfall, because they're missing out on all the good lessons. They're missing out on all the good stuff that, you know, that we have here at our very fingertips.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Can a soul go into the wrong body, as in a
Is this your question?
Well, yes,
or
it is. I thought of it about a week ago when I was off of work.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of applies to this.
Yeah, she had a nice time with her grandson, by the way, didn't you?
And daughter and her boyfriend, yes. Okay, so can a soul go into the wrong body, as in a transgender person?
No.
They chose to?
They choose. They choose. Let's be clear, and I think we've talked about this, and of course this is the subject. So a soul, there are no accidents, right? Now, I know some people think there are, but there are many people like me who think that everything is preordained, everything is planned. And in fact, I have to tell you that once I realized many years ago that we didn't have so much of a free will or so many choices as I'd like to think we had, it sort of unnerved me a bit. But then I realized that it's not about the choice of what befalls us. It's not about the choice of our, you know, our existence on this earth. It is the choice that we have every time, every single time. We do have choices, and our choice is in our attitude. How are we going to deal with what is presented to us? How are we going to deal with this life? You know, the cards that are dealt to us. There are no accidents. We are where we are meant to be at any given moment, even in those moments when we think we are lost. Being lost is part of that learning and growing experience. And often when we are lost, great things happen to us. Now, I can say that sitting here with a smile on my face and be inspirational and all of that. But when I personally have been lost, please believe me, I do know how awful it is. And I'm sitting here calmly saying, well, this is what's meant to be. But I've fought and argued and shouted and called God all sorts of names in my time. And I've stamped my feet and said, this isn't fair so many times. You can't believe it. But the bottom line is that the choice that we have is not necessarily as to where we were born. It's not necessarily as to what body we're born in. It's not necessarily the fact that we're male but we want to be female, or vice versa. It has nothing to do with that. The soul is where it is meant to be. There are no accidents. What is our choice is our attitude to what is given to us, the cards that is dealt, what is put in front of us. And I, for one, choose to have an incredible and a very, very positive and joyful attitude, no matter what. And no matter what the day, unfortunately, some days bring more negativity and some days bring less. But in a day, there's always something we can see that is wrong, some little negative that we can see that is wrong. But, you know, still, I like to laugh. And I thank God, because the one gift that I so appreciate, there are many that I appreciate, but one of those gifts that I appreciate is the ability to be able to laugh, and to laugh at myself as much, if not more, as I laugh with everybody else, not at everybody else, but with everybody else. And that has been my savior in all of my life, my horrible and wicked sense of humor. Do we have any more questions before we go?
Nope, we're all set.
All right, we're all set for today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you would like to know more, you can email us, rosemary@rosemaraltea.com. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. I have to find out what Instagram's all about, because we're not on Instagram, are we? But you can find us there. We are sending soul signs to the printers this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you to Carolyn. She's been great. Thank you all. Please, 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 until next week, have a very, very blessed